All right, good morning, Blood Bowl coaches. So this is the first update we've ever had for the Star City Blood Bowl League second season or 2020 edition rule set. They've been having a season go on for a number of weeks now. This is the end of round four. So they have just 3 rounds left to go. So we're just over halfway. And so a lot of things can happen between now and then. But we want to kind of dive right in, look at what's going on around the league, what teams are really just pulling ahead, which teams are still in the running, and which players on those teams or other teams are just really standing out as being really cool, kind of forming themselves into star players. So I guess without really getting too far into it, let's just jump right into the standings. So this league is divided up into two different divisions. There's no cross division play, but we got Group A and Group B. Each division's got 7 teams in it, so everybody gets a bye at a certain point in the season. Um, and so when you're looking at it here, currently right now in Group A, the MASH, which is a necromantic horror team coached by David Brader, is currently in the lead with 14 points. They've gotten 3 wins and a draw. They've just been really dominating people both offensively and defensively. Really, I mean, offensively they've got 8 touchdowns as a team is currently the most in the league. They've also got 14 casualties, which is also the most in the league. And they've only had 2 casualties caused against them, which is one of the lowest amount in the league. So they've been really just knocking people off the pitch, getting the numbers advantage, and just being able to score, on folks because they just can't. People can't just stay on the field to play defense against them, really. It doesn't help but notice that they do have a couple star players, which we'll get into here in a little bit. But next up is Divided We Stand. Divided We Stand has 10 points right now, and so they have a total of 4 touchdowns, four against. They've also caused more than 10 casualties, which is the only other team other than the MASH to cause more than 10 casualties. And right now they're sitting at about a 50% win percentage with just 1 game to go that they'd play. And so, or I'm sorry, 2 games to go. And so there's still a lot that can happen here. I mean, if the way the point scoring system is in the league with you getting up to 5 points per win, it's very hard to have anybody really be out of it. If they just come out in these last couple games, get some shutout wins, win by more than 2 touchdowns, I mean, they can jump up. Pretty much anybody, even the bottom folks, can really jump up from where they are to first place real quick. Um, so this standings in reality is still up in the air to an extent. I mean, if the Mash say lost their next few games, then and there was some good wins coming in from Zedzillas, for instance, or even the Naughty Nose Pickers, they could pass up the Mash if the Mash doesn't finish strong. So, this is one of those things where even though you feel like you're in first place or you're even in last place, you're not out yet. There's a lot of stuff that can happen. Sometimes it takes a little luck, but don't stop trying, I guess, and keep playing hard, keep fouling those other players on the ground, and try and set yourself up and just realize that you may be in the playoffs and you don't want that guy facing against you, so you need to stomp him while he's down. So kind of looking this a little bit more, we have Dwarf Team Grumpy Old Men's in third place. They've also have an even touchdown and touchdowns caused. They have a positive net touchdown. And then we look at the K Spring Coven and these last 5 teams, or 4 teams, I'm sorry, in the league. It's hard to think that some of that's not because they just haven't got to play as much at this point because they've had their buys early. So because they've had their buys early, they're a game behind technically. So if you think about some of these points, the way they're broken down and things, I think that some of this would switch up a little bit had they played another game. Maybe the K Spring Coven would be, if they won their game, they'd actually be in second place, with 2 wins, 2 draws, or you know what I mean. So I think a lot can still happen. I think the K Spring Coven play today, if I'm not mistaken, and so we're going to see these standings shake up real quick. I think in the next few rounds. This is by no means set in stone. So then we look at this bottom division here, which is Group B. It's currently led by the Pet Cemetery, followed closely by Hashut's Chosen. And so, this is another example of a couple teams that have just really been running away with it to an extent. But there's some teams, like I said, that are close behind. I mean, the Vermintide, let's say they get their next 3 wins are 2-0 shutouts. I mean, that's 15 points. I mean, they're just going to skyrocket to the top. And all you need is a couple draws or losses from these other coaches. And all of a sudden, you've bumped one of them out of the playoffs. So things can really shake up still. I think just about anybody's in it. Let's see. So 2, 3, be 15, 20 points, 19. Pretty much the only person who probably can't make the playoffs at this point, regardless of what happens, is maybe the Silver Strikers. But that doesn't mean that the Silver Strikers shouldn't try and ruin those chances, because what else would it be without Blood Bowl if you're not actually stomping on somebody else's players and ruining their chance at a championship? Like, that's the way you have to play to get your fun out of it, right? I mean, they need to take in here and take Timmy and Tammy and Bobby and Billy and just start jumping on people and just kill their players, ruin their chances, and then, maybe you get a gobbling and hands you some money here a little later. So looking at Group B in just a little more depth, unlike Group A, I mean, nobody's got more than 10 casualties. The most right now is the Chaos Dwarf team, which has 7, which I think they actually got like 3 yesterday. So, I mean, I think it's one of those recently jumping up. It's just been maybe this league just has a little bit higher armor, or they just can avoid being knocked down a little bit more, or just unlucky dice. These are the unlucky dice group right here. So, 7 touchdowns is the most right now caused by the Kimry, which is, obviously shocking. But it's followed quickly behind with the Chaos Dwarves and the Skavens. So, all of these teams are doing really well. Any of the coaches, this is your first season. I mean, I don't see anybody who's doing terrible by any means for a first season or anything like that. I mean, if you're scoring, if you're causing casualties, you're doing something right. So the rest of the stuff will just click in as time goes on. So that's really where things are shaping up right now. Like I said, anybody's in it. There's still 3 games to go, with 5 points maximum apiece. I mean, the Woodland Strikers, they win their next 3 games by more than 2 touchdowns and shut out their opponent, and they get some losses up here. Man, they're in first place. I mean, anybody can jump up at this point. So let's look a little bit at how the playoffs will work. I think a lot of people are questioning how it will work. It'll be 2 rounds. The top 2 from each group will go to the playoffs. So if it was to end today, it would be the MASH, the Divided We Stand, Pet Cemetery, and Hashut's Chosen. And then it's ranked up 1, 3, 2, 4, just seeded accordingly. So right now, that matchup would be it would be the Pet Cemetery against 1, 4, 2, 3. So the Pet Cemetery would play Divided We Stand right now, and the MASH would play Hashut's Chosen in the first round of the playoffs, and then the winner would go on to play into the Star City Blood Bowl League Championship, and then get the title of just season champion.
And now here's a word from our sponsor.
Peggy 16.
Looks like that dwarf is stuck in the middle of the greenskins.
His teammates are either unconscious or most likely dead. What he needs, Bob, is a miracle.
Wait, you hear that? That's the sound of Bugman XXXXXX. Probably the best beer in the old world.
Ha! Come and get it, lad!
Look at those little legs go. Never seen a dwarf run that fast.
Ludman's beer. Beer of the Mountain Kings.
looking at what's coming up, like I said, we got a game going on here today, which is, or two games I think going on today. I think this one's yet to be accepted, but Zedzilla's and the Cave Spring Coven are going on today at noon, and then there's another game going on, which is between the Greenskin Demons and the Hungry Hibernators, the Norse team, so which is made of cutimals. So, kind of look into the honors. This is my the most fun part to me in Blood Bowl is tracking how your players are doing, and how your team is doing compared to everybody else's. So right now, the Hashuts Chosen is the most, valued team in the league, sitting at 1350 team value. Most everybody's around the 12s. I think for the most part, if they're near the top, they're around the 12s, maybe 1250. But the Hashuts Chosen, I think they recently picked up a Minotaur, and their team value just skyrocketed up. Which is good and bad. It could end up being where you start giving inducements to these teams, and that Minotaur doesn't quite offset the inducements you're giving. Most famed right now, the Snotling team has the most fans in the league with dedicated fans of 5. And then there's a number of teams with 4 and 3. The most experienced right now, so this is collectively how much star player points exist with on your team. And right now the MASH have 60, divided we stand 52, and then the Hashuts Chosen in the Pet Cemetery have 48 and 44. So I think this is going to be a big difference in what happens moving forward into the playoffs, because if your team is winning and you make the playoffs, it's a good thing. But if you're outskilled going into the matches, it's going to be tough, especially if your team values match up pretty close because you have more expensive positionals. It's going to be an uphill battle to try and beat those people. So looking at most scorer, like I said, the MASH is leading the league right now with 8 touchdowns, followed by the Kimry Tomb Kings with 7. The most casualties caused, we talked about that, the MASH with 14. So the MASH is leading a bunch of categories right now. Most injured is no surprise. It's the Snotlings. They've had the most injuries with 10. The Silver Strikers also been kind of hurt by injuries, and that can really hurt how well your team's playing. When you've had six injuries caused against you, you got too many people missing next games. You got journeymen starting for your team. It's just not quite your full strength every game you play, and you're just battling. And if you're either a new player or playing a race that you're not familiar with, not having all your guys on the field and having to take those journeymen can really kind of bury you where you're digging yourself out before the game even begins. But that's part of the fun of Blood Bowl, is being able to come back and maybe grab a couple of those wins once you're down like that. So most deadly, this is the team that's caused the most deaths. Right now, the MASH have 2 deaths caused, and there's a handful of teams that have caused 1 death. Most completions, this is what I call the Mark Crouch Award, because he throws, no matter with what team he's with, whether they're good at passing or not, he wants to have the best passer in the league. And so right now there's 5 completions each for the Woodland Strikers and the Vermin Tide. And then most interceptions, it's kind of hard to see because my face is in the way, but Zedzilla's has the only interception currently in the season so far. So that's kind of how the teams are doing. So now I want to look at the players, because the players are the cool bit to me, is following your favorite player and seeing how they're doing. So right now, the most valued player, what we call this in our league, is the Patrick Mahomes Award, because he's got the highest salary, is Mario Laclaus. Mario Laclaus has 185,000 gold value, which is a huge amount of money. So Mario is a block dodge tackle werewolf who's currently scored all but 2 touchdowns for the MASH, and also caused the most casualties. So he's just a monster offensively, defensively. I don't want to say he has to die, but he really should die if you get a chance to foul him. So next is Thrackball Skull Crusher, which is a Bull Centaur for Heshuts Chosen, and then Mystery Meat Pounder, which is the Renegade Minotaur for Divided We Stand. So looking at the most experienced, again, Mario Laclaus, he's got 10 more star player points than anybody else in the league right now. Polly, which is the thrower for Pet Cemetery, because they've been scoring pretty much a lot of the touchdowns for Pet Cemetery. They have a good amount of star player points. Probably the same for Thrackball. Yep, he's a sure block. He's scored all but one touchdown for the Hushuts chosen. So what you need to look at, if you're looking at these teams, you're looking at your opponent, you got to look for who's that guy they rely on. Who's that guy who they're going to give the ball to, that is their Michael Jordan, right? Their guy that they're going to call on when the things get tough, and you need to stomp that guy as fast as you can and knock him out, and then they are lost with what to do because they just haven't played that way, right? They haven't that their game plan is totally disrupted. So looking at this, most scores, so this is highest touchdown scored. Mario Laclaus has 6. Thrackbull's got 5. Polly's got 4. Um, Jean Delowers is a Norse catcher. He's got 4, and Manny Bloodtooth, which is a stilty runner, which I love seeing Snotlings on the board, has 4 as well. Most beast, this is the most casualties caused. So Mystery Meat Pounder, Mario Laclaus, and Kindar Emberbeard all have 4 right now, tied for most casualties. Most injured, this is the one that's, I guess, has taken the most injuries since then, which is Jean Delowers again, and then is followed by some elves, which isn't any surprise whatsoever. One of the surprising ones here on this list is this Blitzo, the Black Orcs for the has-beens. I mean, you'd think Armor 9, or at least I guess 10 plus, I guess is what it is now. 10 plus would be hard to break, and especially being multiple times. And then most MVP, there's been a couple players that have gotten MVP twice, but for the most part, it's pretty spread around, and that's because this edition is just random, right? It's just a D16, whichever player you have. So it's no surprise that some of these teams that only have like 11 players would be more likely to have multiple MVPs than some of the teams like Snotlings that say carry a much larger bench. Most completions right now. So Warp Eye, which is the thrower for the Vermintides, currently got 5. Vincent for the Silver Strikers, which is the Imperial thrower, they have like pass and running pass. They have 4 completions, and then there's a number with 3. And then looking at most interceptions, we got 1 there. So that's kind of how the players are doing around the league. Looking at this, I guess, coming up, what things are going to be looking like. So this next round coming up, the Naughty Nose Pickers against the Grumpy Old Man. That's the most, I guess, the one that could lead into some sort of domestic dispute where they're actually together. So I think this is one where you wanna bang on the Snotlings, but who knows? Maybe that would get you in the doghouse. So we'll see how that game goes. Um, the Chaos Renegades against the Black Orcs is going to be a really high armor kind of matchup there, so that one's going to be really fun to watch. As I mentioned, some of these teams like Zedzilla's and the K-Spring Coven, they haven't got to play all their games yet to stay up with everybody else. So this game right here in particular will have a pretty good outcome on what happens in Group A and how the standings move. If they end up tying, maybe doesn't much move at all. But if one of them comes away with a win, they may be able to bump themselves up into second place. And then looking at Group B, there's also 3 matchups. The Greenskin Demons and the Hungry Hibernators play today. The Hushuts Chosen against the Skaven, and then the Woodland Strikers against some Imperial Nobility. So those are the games coming up. And then, of course, like I said, there's multiple weeks left. Still anybody's chance. And so, get out there and play hard, and don't be afraid to stomp on a guy who's down. So I guess really with that, that's going to be our first update for this season of the Star City Blood Bowl League. I want to thank everybody for playing and sticking it out, and just it's been a lot of fun playing this game over the last couple of years, and I hope everybody sticks around to keep doing it more. As many of you know, we've kind of merged leagues with our Blood Bowl 2016 league, and so future seasons are just going to keep getting bigger and bigger. Which allows a whole lot of more diversity in the league and teams to play. races that are represented. It'll be a lot of fun. So hope everybody has a good rest of the week, and everybody good luck in your matches. Thanks.